A little wolf cub frantically drummed, a continuous feverish pounding, on the wooden door beneath the porch of the ranger's log cabin. The sudden, desperate racket shattered the silence of the Taiga morning, where the dense cedar forest pressed right up to the small, cleared patch of land. Ranger Ivan Belov was instantly alert. He threw open the heavy door and saw the wolf cub on the porch, whining with a high-pitched, primal terror that chilled Ivan to the bone. This was not a playful yelp, it was a desperate plea. Ivan, whose 30 years in the taiga had taught him reverence for its laws, dropped to one knee against all sense of danger, meeting the small creature at its level. He extended a hand in a gesture of calm. The wolf cub immediately gripped the edge of Ivan's sleeve in its teeth and pulled him forward. With its free paw, it pawed at the air several times, pointing with clear, unambiguous urgency toward the distant, bog-myrtle-covered swamp. It was a communication of pure desperation and profound trust. Ivan knew that following it meant risking everything, but the message in those wide, intelligent eyes was definite. Ivan understood that by following the wolf cub, he was breaking the cardinal rule of his job, but the urgency in those small yellow eyes was louder than any manual. The line between duty and instinct was about to be crossed. Ivan's heart hammered against his ribs, a drumbeat of internal conflict. His training screamed at him to secure the area, radio for a team, and wait, but the wolf cub was already moving, darting through the trees, its small back serving as a compass pointing toward the crisis. Ivan switched on his radio, his voice strained. "This is Belov. Situation developing. Following a wolf cub toward the burnt swamp. Request backup, non-aggressive approach. 40 minutes out." He knew 40 minutes was too long. The little cub looked back frequently, ensuring the ranger was still committed, its frantic pace urging Ivan onward into the wild, untrodden fringe of the reserve. They crossed an open glade. The only sounds the rustle of the dry grass and the rapid patter of paws on pine needles. As they reached a thicket of bog myrtle marking the beginning of the marsh, the atmosphere changed entirely. The air grew thick with a tense, oppressive silence. The wolf cub suddenly slowed, moving cautiously. Ivan knew why instantly. He saw the figure first, massive and imposing. The pack's alpha male, a seasoned wolf, was pacing back and forth near the edge of the bog. He was a force of nature, every ounce of his powerful body radiating anxiety and threat. His sheer presence was a thunderstorm of potential violence. His dark eyes, usually focused on troop safety, were wild and agitated, locking instantly onto Ivan. This was the point of no return. Ivan's official protocol stipulated that a solo ranger should never approach an agitated alpha. The alpha's low, deep, rumbling growl, more felt in the chest than heard with the ears, was the most dangerous sound Ivan had ever encountered. It was a clear, final warning. Ivan instinctively made himself small, averting his gaze and lowering his shoulders, showing respect and submission, not fear. He didn't want to challenge the alpha's authority, he wanted to communicate shared concern. A dominant alpha's threat display is a ritual to avoid conflict, but in a state of family distress, that ritual can turn lethal. Ivan took a slow, measured step forward. The alpha stopped pacing, his colossal body frozen. The confrontation hung heavy in the air. Then the little cub solved the dilemma. It ran back to Ivan, pulling frantically at his pant leg, completely ignoring the massive threat of its father. It was tugging Ivan into the danger, showing absolute trust in the man, and urgent concern for whatever lay hidden. Ivan closed his eyes for a split second, placing his life entirely in the small paws of the wolf cub. The alpha male remained a tense, powerful statue, his gaze burning into Ivan's soul. But the cub ignored the danger, pulling Ivan past the alpha's territory toward the shadowy tussocks. Finally, he revealed the grim truth. The wolf cub pulled Ivan around the base of a large waterlogged willow tree, leaning out of the bog. The air here was damp, heavy with the smell of silt and wet earth from the previous night's downpour. Ivan's blood ran cold. There she was, the she-wolf. She was lying on her side, half hidden in the dense sedge-grass near the edge of the quagmire. A massive, heavy snag, clearly dislodged by a surge of water, had slid down, pinning her hind leg in the viscous muck. Her face was pale, her breathing shallow and ragged. Her eyes, glazed over with shock and pain, looked up at Ivan, silently begging for relief. Her leg was already swelling to a terrifying size. The circulation was clearly severed. Ivan immediately assessed the situation, and the truth hit him like a physical blow. The snag weighed easily half a ton. His small team could never move it. Even if the backup team arrived, they would first have to tranquilize the dominant alpha, a complex, time-consuming procedure, and then bring in heavy equipment. That process would take an hour, maybe 2. The she-wolf didn't look like she had 20 minutes. She was losing her fight. Just then, a colossal presence loomed over them. The alpha wolf had followed. He stood there, his scent filling the confined space, a mixture of musk and despair. He looked down at the trapped she-wolf, then at Ivan, and let out a soft, mournful grunt. It was not a threat. It was pure, unadulterated grief. In that moment, the imaginary line between ranger and wild ape, between human and animal, utterly vanished. They were simply 2 males, facing the imminent loss of a female they both cared for. Ivan looked directly into the alpha's eyes. It was the ultimate gamble, an act of extreme challenge and trust that could cost him his life. But all the fear was gone, replaced by a fierce, desperate determination. "I need your help," Ivan said, his voice quiet but steady. "We have to save her." He pointed to the massive snag pinning the she-wolf's leg. Then he pointed to the alpha's immense muscular shoulders, demonstrating the need for joint effort. He pushed against the snag himself, grunting with effort, showing the complete futility of his own strength. The alpha wolf watched, his head cocked, his gaze shifting from Ivan to the snag, to the helpless she-wolf. The complexity of his thoughts, instinct, intelligence and emotion was almost visible in his deep-set eyes. He understood the gesture. He understood the problem. With the alpha's giant, intelligent eyes still fixed on him, Ivan grabbed a thick fallen branch, a makeshift lever, knowing that if the alpha attacked now, it would all be over. But what happened next proved the impossible bond forged in a shared moment of desperation. Ivan, praying, searched the ground and found a large fallen tree limb, thick as his thigh. It was a pathetic lever for such a tremendous weight, but it was all he had. He quickly wedged the branch into a small gap beneath the slag. He strained, screaming silently with effort, but the wood only groaned. The half-ton snag didn't budge an inch. Suddenly, a massive scarred grey paw, its claws worn from a lifetime of travel and asserting dominance, closed around the end of the very same branch. The alpha wolf had joined him. He was silent. He simply braced his other powerful leg against a stable part of the snag for anchorage, positioning himself perfectly opposite Ivan. He was committing. "Okay, big guy," Ivan breathed, his voice trembling with a mixture of terror and awe. "On my signal, push. Push with me." Ivan looked at the alpha, gave a quick, decisive nod, and then threw his entire weight against the lever. At the exact same microsecond, the alpha unleashed a deafening, chest-pounding roar of pure, focused effort and heaved. The sheer power was biblical. The muscles on the alpha's back and shoulders bunched into mountains of solid, determined force. The ground trembled beneath their feet. The wooden log groaned, threatening to snap under the stress. For a terrifying, heart-stopping second, nothing happened. Then, with a deep, sickening, grinding screech of wood against wood, the massive snag shifted. Just an inch. "Again!" Ivan yelled, quickly resetting the lever. They pushed again, a synchronized, desperate, interspecies team. The snag shifted another vital inch. The she-wolf let out a weak moan and tried to pull her arm, but the pressure was still too great. "One more, old-timer. One more good one." For the third time, they combined their ultimate strength. Ivan's world narrowed to the straining wood, the heavy musk of the wolf beside him, and the singular, shared goal of freeing the she-wolf. This time, the snag shifted a full 6 inches, opening just enough of a gap. With a final, pained whimper, the she-wolf wrenched her leg free. She collapsed onto the damp ground, immediately cradling her mangled limb. The cub rushed to her side, clinging to her back and chittering with immense relief. Ivan stumbled backward, his legs turning to water, and fell into a sitting position on the earth. He stared, utterly breathless, at the two of them, the man and the ape, still holding the life-saving branch, their hearts pounding in unison. The she-wolf was safe, but the most profound part of the entire ordeal was yet to come. It was taking place in the quiet aftermath, as Ivan, utterly breathless, met the eyes of the majestic alpha beside him. The alpha stood panting, his massive chest heaving. The great beast looked down at the now conscious she-wolf, then turned his immense head and looked directly at Ivan. There was no aggression in his gaze, no threat, no dominance display. There was only a deep, profound and clear expression of understanding. He held Ivan's gaze for a long moment, and in that shared silence a bond that had taken decades of careful interaction to build was forged into something absolutely unbreakable. The alpha gave a short, soft grunt, a sound of acknowledgement and undeniable thanks, before he turned away from the man and gently nudged the she-wolf, checking on his mate. It was precisely then that the sanctuary's response team, armed with tranquilizer rifles and emergency gear, burst through the foliage. They stopped dead in their tracks, taking in the impossible scene. Ivan, sitting on the ground, unharmed, mere feet from the entire wolf family, who were now huddled together, tending to their own. Ivan quickly radioed the veterinary team to prepare for the she-wolf's transport to the modern veterinary station outside the Taiga. This story isn't about breaking the rules. It's about the intelligence of the wolf cub and the profound empathy of the alpha wolf. The veterinary team later confirmed that the she-wolf's leg was saved, but had they waited, she would have lost it or succumbed to shock. Ivan's decision, guided by a child's trust, proved to be the correct one. It is a powerful reminder that empathy, cooperation, and intelligence are not solely human traits. Trust, when truly given and honored, is the most powerful survival tool in the wild. This remarkable encounter shows us that our greatest connection with nature often requires us to put down our protocols and simply trust.